made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Script AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 641 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Darin Mazepa. And if you want to hear a conversation about vitality and people still matter, stay tuned for the full episode. Welcome back. This is another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. It's the 641st of these. And we're almost 7 years old, Dr. Darin. Born on the 4th of July. Just continuously churning out great content and supporting this beautiful profession of chiropractic. Darin Mazepa is episode 641. And before we get into his story, I'm going to tell the audience our big why. Why do we do what we do? Well, the fundamentals of the show are protecting freedom of speech. Over the past couple of years, I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but I have. Freedom of speech has become whittled down and segmented, and some people get it, some people don't. And mainstream social media, we've seen people become traffic throttled or censored or other types of, removal. So we would never do that to anybody on this show. We do believe in freedom of speech, and we protect that with telling the story of chiropractic. We also support medical freedom and family health freedom. They're not the same things, but if you guys are watching this and needed guidance, go find a chiropractor to help sort those things out for you to where you can know what to do for you and your family and how to support yourselves moving forward. I always, when I give a talk, Dr. Darin, I'm like, from first breath to last breath, you got to have a chiropractor in your life. Some people say womb to tomb, cradle to grave, whatever it might be. I think people need to have chiropractic as a part of their package of life. Philosophically speaking, I'll go a bit quicker through this. We do support BJ Palmer Sacred Trust. If you guys want to know more about that, go and check out the show notes and learn about BJ Palmer's last words. You're going to learn more about chiropractic than you ever did previously, I guarantee you. And we support subluxation-centered chiropractic. I know I shouldn't have to say that, but they're removing this lexicon out of the schools. And if you are watching this and you have a student in your life or a young chiropractor and they've graduated recently, please share the show with them so they can understand what chiropractic is from the voice of the chiropractor, not just the institution. And then we also believe in innate intelligence and universal intelligence. This is old dad chiro stuff, but when chiropractor number 1 founded this profession, he believed that when you adjusted somebody, connect man or woman, the physical, to man or woman, the spiritual. And with that, Dr. Darin Mazepa, welcome.
What's up, brother? I just like to start by saying I value our friendship so much. We've been friends we're over a decade now, aren't we? I certainly think so. And
yeah, it's definitely something that's grown and developed into something really special too. So thank you.
I thank you, absolutely. And it's always a pleasure and a privilege to be on your show. And I love bringing the heat. So let's do it.
Yeah, man. So you're second generation DC.
Yes.
What was it like growing up in that type of a household?
I always say I didn't know any better. I didn't know anything else because this is all I ever knew. My dad opened right here in Emmaus, Pennsylvania in 1961. And there was only one other chiropractor in town. And, in the early 60s, that was radical to have 2 chiropractors in such a small town. And we're right next to Allentown, but still, it was a different world. The the heat was on. The medical profession was doing whatever they could to just see chiropractic as a threat and do whatever they could to eliminate it. I think about the fact that my dad was friends with all of those like big time people. He knew Chester Wilk, who brought the lawsuit, and he knew, like, he was in those circles. I like to say that in Emmaus, Pennsylvania, there's been a chiropractor named Mazepa for 63 continuous years. That's pretty amazing, and I'm proud to be part of that legacy. So it's, like you asked, I didn't know any different. This is just how it was. When I started to get a sniffle, my dad would adjust me. When I was in high school playing soccer and running track, my dad would adjust me. That's how it was.
So 60 plus years into this, how have you seen the profession adapting, and how have you seen people, I guess, needing more attention or less attention?
I try to imagine what Emmaus looked like in 1961 when my dad was seeing people and what they were coming in for. It certainly wasn't necessarily for the levels of mental and emotional stress that people are experiencing today. A lot of them were coming in for aches and pains. You'll never get away from that. But they were also coming in because even back then, my dad was doing a lot of educating on the front of, how to be able to greater adapt. My dad had the distinction of going to National College of Chiropractic when it was somewhat of a chiropractic college back in the 50s. And he had a roommate in college named Jim Sigafus. So my dad and Sig were roommates, which gives you a little bit of idea where they were going. They were radicals even back then,
Yeah, and I think that you're spot on when it comes to understanding where people are today. And I was talking to you off camera about the way that people show up, and I've been reading Fred Barge a lot lately, and like the language even between like the 1980s to today has like shifted so much, where he was like citing BJ and Clarence Gonstead, like he was like using their old language, and then his language now is old. So I think, as we evolve as people, I can't even imagine what people were coming in for in the 60s, 60 years ago, and how they were writing their notes system or collecting data and information on what a person came in for.
I still have my dad's porcelain nervoscope that he used 60 plus years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's just it. It's like I've been all around, and I've seen the chiropractic profession from the way that they analyze, detect, and correct vertebral subluxation. And these old school instruments, like the nervoscope, they're still as accurate as anything.
They're great. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I'm a tech guy, so I love tech. Doesn't have to be old tech, doesn't have to be new tech. I just love tech. So I've moved in the direction of, looking at nerve interference from a different angle, looking at HRV, looking at EMG, and all the stuff that we have available to us today. That doesn't mean that I don't have the utmost of respect in looking at pattern adjusting and seeing what that nervoscope can actually pick up on. So amazing.
Yeah, I think about like where we are today, and I was telling you about like 12-year-olds are representing nursing home posture.
Yeah.
And 12-year-olds look like they have digital dementia. And I think there's this big idea that we've been told is like chiropractic helps with thoughts, traumas, and toxins.
Right.
And then we have to classify, where does technology stand in there? Is it a standalone, or is it a toxin? Or is it a thought? Or is it a trauma?
I like it to be the fourth T, and that fourth T is actually an amalgamation of all three T's. You get 1 + 2 + 3, and you end up with 4, and that fourth one is technology.
Well, I was also, we should have captured everything we talked about before we went live today, but I'm just going to rehash some of it.
Yeah, sure.
I was telling you, I was giving that call or that talk over in Portugal, and I was talking about, like, if you guys want to know how deep technology is on the nervous system, just look at your phone report at the end of the week and see how many hours actually are logged that they report back to you that you spent on this device.
How many pickups? How many times did you pick up your phone in a day?
Yeah, and that's the real trouble is we're at this point where we're looking to chiropractic as always the great solution for people, but like you said, people are coming in with more precedence of emotional stress and
especially
mental.
After this last 3-year experiment that we just went through. That did a number on the youth. That did a number on adolescents and teenagers. Holy cow.
Yeah, and I just look at the whole like scenario of where we're at, and your clinic that you founded out there in Emmaus is called Vitality.
Vitality.
And I wanted to like kind of extrapolate the word of vitalism and vitality and what it means to have it, what it means to lose it, and how chiropractic supports vitality.
Yeah, I love that. I always tell people, it's in the name. People are like, well, what do you do there? It's in the name. Let's start there. That's what we're looking at changing in your life is improving and increasing your vitality.
Yeah, I think it's like principle number 18 or something that talks about having vitalism in the body. And if it leaves the body, there's no more vitalism. And I think that as people understand this profession deeper, they're going to have to readapt to their mindset that it's not just for PI cases and it's not just for an insurance code, it's for vitality.
My mentor, Donnie Epstein, always talks about, think of in terms of you're working on a person. You're not looking for a bunch of parameters. You're not looking at a set of checklists or, whatever. The first thing you look at is you're working with a human being.
Yeah.
That's important to make sure you pay attention to that.
Absolutely. So I know that we wanted to touch on a couple of things. The relationship with chiropractors and money.
Yeah. My mantra for probably the last 10 years was heal your relationship with poverty consciousness. Heal your relationship with money. And recognize that if we agree that everything in the universe is vibration, then money is just a vibration. So the idea is, how can you tune into that vibration more effectively? How can you get to the point where you're able to see that you're worthy of being financially rewarded for the good and hard work you're doing? I know chiropractors out there that are amazing chiropractors, and they're still struggling. They're still struggling financially. And that breaks my heart. That breaks my heart because it's said all the time and it's been used in so many different ways, but you're doing God's work. And if you're doing God's work, you're going to be taken care of. And if you're not being taken care of while doing God's work, then maybe it's you. If you talk about old time chiropractic slogans, it's never the tick, it's the tour. So the tick is doing its job. The tour isn't necessarily doing their job here and here. And that's where I just see so many people who are struggling. And I decided to divorce myself of struggle. I want more ease in my life. I want more peace in my life. So I went out and figured out how to make that happen. What I needed to do in my own head, heart, and hands.
Yeah, I think about this like this depth of it and what it means to connect the practitioner to the profession.
Yeah.
And what it means to reintegrate like the consciousness of being the healer to the profession. Mm-hmm. And my past couple talks that I've given, I've urged the chiropractors to make a list of all the other practitioners in their, radius of community and get to know them. And my mentor who helped me start podcasting, Ed Osborne, he would always tell me that we're more alike than we're different.
Yeah.
And I think that, him coming from the chiropractic profession and him being a chiropractor, that resonates with him and his group a lot. But as I look at the group that I represent, not being a chiropractor, I say, wow, they are more alike than they are different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I say that all the time. In my town, there's 5 or 6 other chiropractors, and I have zero competition. I have no competition. I have colleagues. What I do is so specialized. I'm a 100% network spinal practitioner. So if somebody does need that biomechanical release from an auto accident or something like that, that's not my gig. And I don't want that to be my gig. But I know somebody down the street who can take really good care of you. Go see them. And I have no problem with having the practice of my dreams, knowing that I can help support somebody have the practice of their dream.
For sure. I guess I'm really curious, new practitioners. I know that there's you're talking about having Donnie Epstein as your mentor.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice or mentorship would you lead a new graduate 2 years out, or soon to be graduating? What advice would you maybe share with them?
Get clear on what your vision is, get clear on what your purpose is. Really, really zero in on, if you believe in the law of attraction and manifestation and all those big fancy words, be as crystal clear as you want. Come up with the most concise mission statement, come up with your vision for what you see for humanity, and make sure that everything you do is fueling that mission and vision, because the consequence of that is success. Don't go chasing success. Chasing success is trying to grab the tiger by the tail. If you absolutely do the mission and the vision and the internal work, the interior work, all you can get is massively financially rewarded, and any accolades that you want. I'm done. I always talk about my ego wall behind me. I'm done with the ego stuff. Now I just want to serve at a greater level than I ever have. Now I need to know that at this point, I'm in my 30th year of practice. I need to know that my legacy is no longer me. It's you. It's you, the new practitioner. It's you, the up and coming doc. It's you, the struggling doc who's been out there for 20 years and hasn't been able to get traction. That matters. That matters so much to me. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it comes from a very sincere place when we want to see other people have success with their health. And that's what chiropractors are working on with the person in front of them. But also we want to make sure that the person providing the care has the ability to remain healthy too.
Yeah.
And
balance is huge.
Yeah. But I also think that we're in a different perspective than people that graduated 15, 20, 30 years ago. I think that the newer practitioner has a little bit more of a hot seat to be able to play in today's game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think everybody has every decade, every generation has their own variables. There's a lot of different variables here today, but I also look back in history. Nobody in chiropractic is going to jail right now for practicing chiropractic. So I know how good I've got it. I know how good these young people coming out have got it compared to other times in history. There's other struggles. I mean, who wants $300,000 in debt? And who wants to have to figure out how to navigate social media effectively? My social media was setting up at malls and setting up at grocery stores. That was my social media 30 years ago. Still works pretty darn good now.
You made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is brought to you by Excite Medical and the DRX 9000, Chiro HD, Softwave, Cool Blue VA, Bridge Financial, 100% Chiropractic, Chiro Health USA, ChiroScript AI, Chiro Moguls, The Chiro Speaking Company, New Patients in a Box, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, Life Chiropractic College West, Pro Hockey Chiros, Pro Baseball Chiros, and the IFCO. You can benefit from a full list of sponsors by visiting our sponsor page at chirohustle.com/sponsors. Links in the description. Now, let's hustle. Yeah, I mean, the game has changed dramatically when it comes to like what's effective and how people do it. I've done a couple recent webinars about how to build your community and how to make connection, not only for new patients, but once again, building community with your practitioners.
Yeah.
And social media has, I think, made things very quick. but it's almost to the point that it's diluted, and we look over it, and it doesn't have the same impact as it once did. And there used to be some stats where like 90% of every text message was opened.
Mm-hmm.
And now I just randomly by accident will glance at somebody's phone, and I'll see like 300 text messages unread or unopened. And you can just see that like we're just like inundated with so much communication when it comes to making decisions. And back to the fourth T, this technology approach to like, how are we connected and what is necessary to do marketing? Like, I really believe that we have to go back to an old model where we go and meet our community where they are.
Yeah.
And we talk to people, we join networking groups, and we start to get more connected with the people that that live where we're at.
Totally agree. Absolutely. I mean, I do community dinners at least once a month, and community dinners are exactly that. I'm buying you dinner just so you can meet my community and so you can become a part of my community. I have such a love for the Hawaiian culture. I talk about literally, you're going to become part of the Vitality Ohana. And the Vitality Ohana we take very seriously here. So something as simple as hosting a dinner and telling the story, telling the chiropractic story, is a great way of getting that connection into your neighborhood.
Yeah, there's so much to offer to people when it comes to connection and the chiropractic message. So I guess this is a really important question to tackle is how do we get to a point where the profession still has the philosophy and the art of chiropractic in the next decade? I've done a lot of, as you've discussed with me, poking the bear with social media, but I see a lot of people talk maybe almost that we're in that last like generation before we might not call what we believe in and love so much chiropractic. How do we save that? How do we save that? Or is it worth saving?
That's the more important question right there. I know so many amazing chiropractors who live, breathe, and will die for chiropractic. And if we go backwards again to what BJ Palmer said, the day may come where we have to change the name of the profession. So I'm okay with having chiropractic change its vision. You know, if there want to be doctors of chiropractic medicine out there, I don't have the same energy on that because I'll just pivot, change the name of what I do, and create something different. You know, look at Reggie. Reggie had spinologists. You know, there's ways around the way the profession is going. I don't want those ways to continue on down that path of becoming more medicalized, but I also am doing my best to get rid of as much dogma out of my life as I possibly can, where I'm right, you're wrong. I'm okay with BJ's concept of let's just change the name. Let's become a whole different profession and let those people just do what they do. You can be a chiropractic medical doctor. I don't care. It's not going to change what I do. I'm also not going on the name.
Something so beautiful has been captured. And the people that have influence that doesn't make people better are dictating it.
Sure.
And they're like, stand in line, chiropractor, follow our rules. And I think that chiropractic has always been a rebel healing profession.
No doubt. No doubt.
And it's always been a profession that always does the best for the person in front of them. So that's one of the reasons that my ethos is so strong for chiropractic, is because I've realized that there was like a great healing that was happening around the world. And I noticed that this chiropractic thing wasn't popular. And I'm like, why not? And it's because it goes towards this big word, vitality. It keeps people vibrant, and it keeps people motivated, and it keeps people with better quality of life. And I don't understand why that would never be popular. So
I think that goes to the power of brainwashing, the power of media. You know, The 3 most dangerous words on television today are ask your doctor. You know, ask your doctor if chiropractic is right for you and see what they have to say.
I don't know if it's going to be such a good response from them.
That's the point, you know. And it's that way in so many things, you know. Oh, I need to discuss this with my doctor first. Oh, I didn't know he graduated from chiropractic college. That's amazing. Oh, he didn't. Then why are you asking him about that? I'm going to ask my plumber about my electrical issues in my house. I'm going to ask my landscaper about my toilet. So when you get into poking the bear, I enjoy poking the bear. Those of my friends who know me know that's one of my favorite things to do. I'll shoot from the hip and I'll say it like it is.
But I think that we have to go back to being more matter of factual. We have to be more of a conversation that challenges. And I think that so many people that like a lot of what I do, just for like clarity, is it's a litmus test.
Yeah.
I check and see. I basically pool the world, and I see who stands on what side of the line, and it's basically like when I go get a new patient, I let the new patient tell on themselves. They tell me what's going on. I tell them I can help them. Well, it's kind of the same way that I've learned how to basically pool chiropractic.
Sure.
Is I kind of see what side of the aisle people are on and how I can help nurture the conversation. And really, that's why I have such like a deep intro that I do now, because I realized that people weren't talking about these things. And I realized that they were removing these things from the schools. And I realized that when I was talking to chiropractors, they were saying, I'm trying to hire somebody, but I have to train them for 6 months because they don't know philosophy and they don't know how to adjust. So I'm like, how are we going to fix this? Do we just start putting on free adjusting seminars?
That's a great one. You went to chiropractic college. Now come to our seminar and actually learn what chiropractic is.
Yeah. And like, is that what we have to do, is like go and like barnstorm like the communities where chiropractic schools are and just hold free adjusting seminars so they at least like learn how to like do like what chiropractors do instead of like being like feared into referring out? And you know, do we have to like get everybody on Heg John's call like globally? Get on Heg John's call.
Dr. Haig, talk about a rock star, definitely.
Get everybody on his like synapse like radio, and like so to where people are actually plugging into like philosophy and they can actually start to extrapolate like the bigness of this profession and not what their schools are actually like shoving down to them and like pushing them out with.
Well, think about chiropractic utilization in America. It's always been somewhere between 7 and 10% of the population. So it's never really had its glory day. The glory day might have been 10%, you know? And one of the things I hear people talk about all the time from the marketing people is everything seems to be the same thing, that you're going after that same 7 to 10%. I love marketing to the 93%. I love telling the story to the 93% who have no bias, have no experience at all, and have no idea what the heck chiropractic is. That's fun, going after those people.
How do you actually, what's your best recommendation on how to go and get that 93%?
Be different. Be different than the person next door. Be different than the chiropractor down the street. Find out what your uniqueness is and really plug away at that uniqueness. I have a t-shirt that I bought. I was buying some clothing for my son, and I found a t-shirt that I absolutely love. It says, "I'm not for everyone." That sums me up. I'm not for everyone. I know this isn't really, the story that most people are accustomed to hearing, but this beard is on purpose. The fact that I still have an earring is on purpose. I'm unique. And if I'm not for you, I'm still going to love you. My door is always open. But if you want to rock and roll and you want to really see your life change, let's do it. And it's okay that you saw Dr. So-and-so down the street. The reason you're here is because someone told you or you found out what we do is different. What we do here is unique. So the results we get here are unique. That's one of the best marketing tips I can give to anybody is don't be like every other chiropractor out there.
Yeah, I really believe that that's a good message to people to hear, because it was probably like 7 years ago. I gave a talk in Boulder with Danny for the Mile High Philosophy Night, and I talked to him about unity through diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And nowadays, it's a whole different like vibe when you talk about diversity and unity.
Mm-hmm.
But 7 years ago, it was kind of novel,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, check it out. If I went to 7 of you guys in a row, like your art would be different.
Mm-hmm.
And you would adjust me and take care of me the way that you saw was the right way to do it based on your detection and correction of the subluxation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and that's where we have to start educating the public better, is that the title of chiropractor is delivering the adjustment. And how you get the art is dependent upon the artist of that practice. And I think that once we get clear on that, then the public starts to understand it's not just a ring dinger. It's not just it's not just a YouTube video with women wearing next to nothing and guys adjusting them. It's not that. Like, that's what it's become because of the sensationalism of the adjustment. Like I always told people, like from the jump, like I don't think anybody should ever show the adjustment on a video.
Yeah, I'm with you. I agree.
I think it's sacred.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have people that come up to me when I'm out doing marketing and they're like, hey, do you guys do the ring dinger? And I'm not trying to throw shade at him,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that when you sensationalize any type of chiropractic like that, you're going to sensationalize the idea of the public.
And there's no context to what that doctor in that video is doing. There's no, I mean, if anything, I see that, like you said, this is sacred. And if you're willing to tell a whole lot more story up front and then say, here we are about to turn the life force on in this person, that would have a totally different context than just, you know, stepping on a bunch of twigs under the table to make a bunch of, you know, a big bunch of sounds.
Well, I think that should be it. Like anybody that does that type of promotion, they should have to preface what they're doing, why they're doing it, and the details around that type of specific adjustment.
Sure.
And if not, then they're just really, I think they're giving away the best part of chiropractic, and the public's perception changes and shifts, and they're looking for something that might not represent what you want to deliver to them at your office. And then they show up to you that does network, and they're like, do that thing with the towel around my neck. Mm-hmm. You're like, well, you're like, bro, we don't do that.
Yeah, right. There's the door. See ya. And even beyond that is there's a place for that. It's certainly not specific. It's certainly not me. I'm not sure I would call that chiropractic. But if that's what you're looking for because you saw it in a YouTube video, good luck and God bless. I hope you find that. When you're looking for more, when you're looking for vitality, let's go ahead and do that. There's an old saying. I love, you know, phrases and sayings and idioms. If you're going to the chiropractor for pain, it's like going to their bank and robbing it of their pens. You know, robbing the bank and just taking the pens. You're missing so much more of the big picture, the beautiful picture of more life, more vital force inside of you. I'm not sure you get that from a towel around the neck. I don't know. I'm just saying I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that people even know how to write anymore, Darin.
You're right. If we took a big step backwards, right? And the delivery of the adjustment, I also think that the delivery of the adjustment isn't the big thing. The adjustment is the big thing. I talk about all my friends. You know, I have so many friends who practice differently than I do. And I love to compare, you know, principled subluxation-based chiropractic like Baskin Robbins. There's 31 flavors there, but it's all ice cream. You know, there's lots of ways of detecting, analyzing, and correcting. They're all chiropractic, as long as you're detecting, analyzing, and correcting, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been doing chiropractic? How long have you been serving your community?
I got my first adjustment at 3 days old because I was born in a hospital in the 60s, and they knew my dad was a chiropractor, and they said, keep an eye on that one. His dad's a chiropractor. He might want to do something to his own kid. So it took me 3 days to get checked. So I've been doing chiropractic for 55 years. I've been in practice for 30 years. I graduated from Life when Dr. Sid was still at the helm, and I was around people like Fred Barge and John Grostick and so many people, Pierce, Petty, like DE back then was extraordinary. Not that DE isn't amazing now, it still is. And shout out to my DE family out there, but holy cow. Back then, it was just amazing. My copy of The Bigness of the Fellow Within, Volume 22, has an insane amount of signatures, autographs, and inscriptions in it. As a kid, I wanted to drink that all in when I was in chiropractic college. So I went right up to Dr. Barge and I said, "Would you sign my book?" And, he adjusted his beret and he said, "Yes, chiropractor of the future." And he would sign my book. So 30 years, September 1994 is when I graduated. I'm coming up on 30 years very, very soon. And I still love this profession and I still love what I do.
So I guess tease me up for the closing question. What's next for you?
As of the end of last year, the beginning of this year, I've announced my retirement in practice. I don't like the idea of partial retirement or walking away, but I have an amazing young associate doctor here with me, Dr. Jess. Shout out to Dr. Jess. And I work 2 days a week, and I put a lot of energy into a new endeavor, a new nutritional company that actually has supplements that influence your epigenetics. I don't want to just look at supplements as pills and potions, but I want to know that it's actually working on the cellular level and the epigenetic level. I'm doing a lot of that. You know me well enough to know, James, I'm still going to lots of concerts. I just saw Echo and the Bunnymen last week. I was in California for a big music festival. So I always tell people, in my office, in my entrainment room, we talk about two things: healing and rock and roll, and not always in that order. So I'm also probably the most important thing is my son's 14 now, and I'm spending a heck of a lot of time with him. We're doing a lot of cool stuff. We've set a goal for 2024. We're going to ride at least 100 different roller coasters on the planet. We started that when we were in Japan. I took him to Japan for 17 days, and we rode 4 roller coasters when we were over in Japan, and we're already up to number 21, and we'll knock the Jersey Shore off this weekend and hit some down there too. So my life is chiropractic, rock and roll, and my kid, and roller coasters. It's a pretty darn good life, don't you think?
I love it. I love it. I think it's really cool to get people to share about who they are, why they do what they do, and why they love this profession.
Yeah.
And second generation chiropractor out there in Pennsylvania. It's really cool to hear the stories about meeting Fred Barge and going to Life when Sid was there, and having your dad's roommate be Sigafus, and like the amount of connection that other people will get from this episode is going to have a ripple effect on their ideas of how they find mentors and what they believe that they can accomplish with their technique, what they believe that they can accomplish within the construct of what chiropractic is, and where we can potentially see this profession going.
Yeah.
I believe that getting the conversation going with so many chiropractors. Some lady put me on blast the other day, and she was like, "What have you actually done for this profession?"
What haven't you done for this profession, James Chester?
and it really struck a chord in me, and it made me realize that we can always do more. And just because somebody sees that we haven't done anything, that's the optics that they look through.
Sure. Yeah.
So I believe that in closing, that everybody should investigate a little bit more what they can do to support chiropractic's future.
Yeah.
And if they have students that are curious about chiropractic, make sure they understand financial literacy.
Yeah.
As they become the doctors of the future.
Yeah.
And have a healthy relationship with your financial stability and structures. Yeah. And the profession will definitely be something really, really powerful moving forward. With that, if people want to connect with you, they want to learn more about you, where can we send them to?
I'm going to give you a website, and I'm going to give you an email address. The website is thisisvitality.com. Pretty darn easy. It says it all. Thisisvitality.com. And my direct email address is Dr. Darin, DRDARIN, at thevitalitycenter.com. Thevitalitycenter.com. I'm loving working with people. I'm loving having the opportunity to talk with people. And, you know, my passion has always been chiropractic. My new passion is really talking about soil and how soil is so depleted, and how even the cleanest, we were talking again off camera with, food, how important food is. The greatest food on earth is still grown in depleted soil these days. So that's what got me more back into my idea of nutrition and supplementation. I'm not opposed to saying supplements. I am definitely into making sure that I'm feeding people's soul, spirit, body, flesh, even down to the cellular level.
Well, Dr. Darin, if you guys want to reach out to him, this is vitality.com and Dr. Darin at thevitalitycenter.com. Love and appreciate you, brother. Thank you for being our guest on episode 641 of the Chiro Hustle podcast.
Love you, brother. See you out there on the road. Next time you're in the neighborhood, we're going to do dinner. We're definitely going to do dinner again.
All right.
And it'll be real food like we did last time, right?
Absolutely. Well, have a great afternoon out there in EMS. And I will sign off here from Grand Junction, Colorado by telling you, you guys are just one story away. Keep hustling. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.
Aloha and mahalo.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.